Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here on time. It's time to study. We've completed chapter 45 and we're ready to start 46. Let me share an introduction to 46. The Rabbi wants to help us achieve connection with God. And the Torah, Moshe, upon his death, said that Ki karov elecha, it is close to you, adavar, this connection, meod, very close. Beficha, in your mouth, ubilvavcha, in your heart, lasoto, in action. And it refers to love and fear of God. In fact, God commanded us to love God. We say it 4 times, 5 times a day. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. One of the 613 commandments is love God, your Lord. Everybody's asking, how is it possible? So the rabbi went through a very long, he called long and short route, and then there is a short and long route. The rabbi in the last few chapters expanded on love. There are 2 types of love, there are 2 types of fear of God, and how to reach it, mainly through a contemplation of God in godliness, about godliness and the greatness of God. The last chapter, 45, the rabbi introduces us to Jacob. Abraham is chesed, kindness, representing love. Yitzchak is restriction, fear of God, representing fear of God. Yaakov is compassion, mercy, combining those 2 together. And the rabbi is saying to us, if we contemplate a little bit, not much, about God's greatness, He saved us from so much trouble. How come we made a decision and we could not achieve what we wanted to, and it was a miracle that saved us? Who we met, the children we raised, etc. Suddenly, we realize that my soul is part of God, is suffering in my body. That God goes through pain of a child who's kicking the father for all the father does, or the mother. Imagine a parent raises a child, provides education, and the child, all they do is blame the parents. I could have been this way. The reason I'm unsuccessful is because of you. You either gave me too much or you didn't give me. You're not there. You are there. You're too much there. And it causes pain. So that we need to have a little mercy. Mercy on God, my father, who had done so much for me, is doing so much for me, care about me so much. Make sure I don't trip. Make sure that whatever I want to do, and it's not good, is not going to happen. And therefore, we will bond with God through mercy. Mercy should awake love for God, but that's the end. That's not the end game. The real goal is to bond with God through mercy, and mercy will make us want to get the godly soul from prison. What mercy would want us, God, not to be in pain. Mercy would want us to serve God so that God feels a little better. This was last chapter. Ali, do you remember that?
I remember not understanding what we were talking about, but now that you explained it that way, thank you.
Now that I explained it that way, you understand. So last lesson, I spent a whole hour. I didn't walk. This time, 2 minutes does. Thank you. So we call it repeat.
Review.
Or as Elizabeth, the teacher, calls it, review.
Absolutely, we have to make it positive,
Rabbi. Thank you. Do I have to expand on it, or I made myself clear? Chapter 46 and 47. Chapter 46, the Rebbe is going to attempt to establish a connection between me and God through a method called reflection. I want to do a little talk, and then we can study it quick. What the Rabbi is saying that is, King Solomon in the book of Proverbs says, Kemaim apanim lapanim. Just like one faces sees the body of water, looks the water, puts his face down the water, and the same face will be reflected back. The image of the face will be reflected back. Kach lev adam el adam. So is the heart of a human to a fellow human being. What King Solomon tells us. There's a funny story, not so funny, but it's supposed to be funny. There was a farmer who had never been to the big city. He had to go to the big city for an occasion. So he checked into a hotel. As soon as he stick the key to the door to the room, he opens the door. He sees another person there. He starts yelling, "What are you doing here? I was told that I paid in advance. It's my room." And he keeps yelling, and the person is not moving. Then suddenly he stopped for a moment. He realized whatever he does, the person is doing too. Turned out it was a mirror. He never saw a mirror in his life before, so it took him a while to get used to it. Maybe you had to walk out and come back a second time. The review.
Went to the other room, get to the other dog, and came back and just went back.
So your dogs are the what the story is told about. Okay. In other words, the Rebbe wants us to know that the way we feel and express our heart is the same way God feels. And therefore, if I want to live, if I want to be successful, all I have to do is fall in love with God, awaken the emotions of love towards God. God will reciprocate. Simple as that. Does that make sense? The rabbi is going to go through a very lengthy discussion about how far God is from us, and he lowered himself so much. And therefore, it's called for the little bit of reciprocation to be a mensch. And the little we can do is obey God's commandments. In other words, when here, you don't need to fall in love with God. You don't need to study Torah and to perform the mitzvot. There is no prerequisites. All you have to do is contemplate for a moment about how much God does for me and what is God. God is the King of Kings, and he's very far. And I am a single human being that here temporarily, yet God pays attention to every detail of my deeds. And he's looking after every time I speak, I think, or I do something. How much do I owe God for that? And that itself calls for reciprocating God by doing whatever God does for me. The least that I can do is obey God. So I want to talk about this reflection idea. There were a father and son who came to the rabbi for a din Torah, for a dispute they had. If you have a dispute, you don't know what to do. You don't punch the other. You just go to the rabbi. So it turned out it was the winter in Russia, and they only had one coat. The father said that he needs the coat. He's an older man, so he feels the weather much more than the younger, and he's very cold, so he should be the one to get the coat. The son said that he wants the coat because he goes to work, he earns a living, and that's how he feeds his father. Father is not going to work. He's going to synagogue, he's going to the theater. The son needs to go to work. He deserves to have the coat. What do you think the rabbi answered them?
Separately.
The rabbi said there was no chance of, there was no possibility. The rabbi said to them, I want you to rethink why, the reasons why you or each deserve the coat, and come back to me tomorrow and give me more reasons, different reasons. They came back overnight. The father started thinking, contemplating, and he realizes that his son is right. The son goes to work because his son is at work. Then he can get sick get a cold. The son thought to himself and said the same thing. The father is much older. I'm strong, I'm young. So the next day they go to the rabbi, and the rabbi says, no. So the father says, yeah, I realize that it belongs to the son. The son should have the coat. The rabbi said, give me the reason, and he gives a very nice reason. He turned to the son, and the son said, no, I feel that it should go to my father, because my father is much older. He suffers much more from the cold, and he's a fragile person. A little cold can get him on ammonia, and he can die. So the rabbi says, okay, so what should we do? And the son says, no, I want him to have it. The father says, no, I want him to have it. So the rabbi says to them, you know what? I have an extra coat. Here's a second coat. You both are going to have the coat. You're both going to have each a coat. Thank God those days labels didn't mean much. So they didn't ask what the maker and the color and the size. Because you have a coat, you put on a coat. So they turn to the rabbi and they ask, if you have an extra coat and you're a very kind person, rabbis are very kind people, why didn't you offer it to us last night? Why not today? And the rabbi said to them, you know what? Last night when you were arguing, I didn't even think about offering you the coat. It didn't come to my head. But today, when you acted in kindness or you spoke in such kind words and you showed care, it did something to me. It changed my attitude too. And I said to myself, I should also be a kind person. And that's what motivated me to give the coat. In other words, sometimes it's not even intended towards a person. But the fact that a person acts in kindness or speaks words of kindness, it affects the surrounding, that even the surrounding want to do good, want to be involved, want to do what's right.
Couldn't you say also that each had mercy for the other?
Of course. But why was the rabbi motivated?
Mercy, or they thought
So,
they love each other.
so that changed them to also show mercy. That's the very point I am making. So last night when they were debating each other and each one wanted the coat to themselves, it didn't even enter his head that he has in the boidim, he has in the attic a coat that he doesn't need. Only when they acted in kindness, he says, I should also do some kindness. Oh, I can help them.
Basically, like people on the street that, smile at everybody, or say hello every time you pass people. Just to have that good positive attitude and cheers the person up.
But it's the credit to the rabbi who said, go home and think it over instead of
Right.
making a decision right then.
Right.
That's a standard rabbi thing. Think it over.
Come back in a week.
Actually, I said it a lot of times, and many people are upset. Many times. I say to myself, it needs to settle, we need to sleep over it. I say to people, think about it, come back. Oh, what do you mean? You're pushing me off? You don't like to? I don't care what you're going to say. You can say it. It's not true. Sometimes over time, after a while, the rabbis have a better understanding. The persons have a better understanding. Rushing to conclusion and making decisions quick is not the right thing. But there is much, much more. I want to share with you some more stories. King Solomon, in the words that he uses, are kemaim apanim lapanim, like water reflecting a face to the face that shows. Hasidic masters are asking, why is the rabbi using water? Do you need an air conditioner? Are you okay? Are you okay? Okay. Why do we need water as an example? What's wrong with a mirror? Why King Solomon, in his time there was mirrors. Yet he says, kemaim upon him, not kemar'eh upon him. By the way, in the desert, the women donated the mirrors to build the basin. So they had mirrors. He uses water. Some say it's because water, in order for someone to look and see his face, he has to bend over. You cannot just stand straight. So in order for you to achieve someone to have the same feeling that you do, you need to bend over, so to say, figuratively. Another explanation is given is the water will reflect the face of the one who looks only when the waters are calm. If the waters are noisy, they are gushing, they don't reflect anything. Is that correct, Ali, the fisherman? So is the same with face to face. When I want to connect with somebody and I contemplate about their greatness, hoping that they will be connecting with me, there is no guarantee. But the least that needs to be is I need to bend, and I also need to wait for the moment where the waters are calm. There is no anger, there is no issues that are involved, because then don't expect that the reciprocation will show up. That's why later on I'll share with you some other stories, but there was a Jew from France who the rabbi, a Chabad rabbi, was able to connect him, and he became an observant Jew. But one thing bothered him, that the Hasidim loved the Rebbe so much. They talk about the Rebbe, they study the Rebbe teaching, they listen to the Rebbe. What is the Rebbe saying? They ask the Rebbe, they don't do anything without the Rebbe. Rebbe, it's almost an idol, God forbid. So he came to the rabbi, to the Chabad rabbi that's brought him to Yiddishkeit, and he says, why? I cannot live with that. So the rabbi says to him, why don't you ask the Rebbe himself? This was in the late 70s. Ask the Rebbe about what bothers you. So he traveled to New York, and when he had private audience with the Rebbe, he turned to the Rebbe and he says, I love everything about the Rebbe and the Hasidim and the Shluchim, the emissaries, but the devotion, the connection to the Rebbe is way, way overboard. And the Rebbe turned to him and he says, you know why? My love to them have no boundaries. I love the Hasidim so much that's why their love towards me is in the same way. And he left with a very satisfied understanding, because when you show boundaryless, limitless love towards a person, their heart will melt and they will fall in love and they will connect. There is no guarantee, but definitely it's a very good way of connecting with people. And that applies to family members, and that applies to strangers, and that applies to employees. Across the board, a human being is made out of a heart, and the heart will connect when another heart is trying to connect with him. I'm going to start reading in page 697. So what I shared with you, the Rabbi Weinberg, is bringing here, but it's worth repeating. In the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe described yet another manner in which a person can perform Torah and mitzvot with his heart, with the love and fear of God, and that is by utilizing the attribute of Jacob, which is the quality of mercy. In this case, the individual arouses compassion within himself upon his exiled soul and upon its source, the Ein Sof. And in this frame of mind, he studies Torah and performs mitzvot, because this endeavor extricates his soul from its spiritual exile, whether it's being banished by his own inappropriate thoughts, words, and deeds, or outside, and restores it to its source in the blessed Ein Sof. So when I have mercy on my soul, when I have mercy on God, and therefore I want to do something about it, study Torah, perform the mitzvot, it will release the soul from jail, and it will free godliness. In this chapter, so this was last chapter, mercy. In this chapter, the Alter Rebbe goes on to explain how very, very close it is for every Jew to reveal his hidden love of God. The approach explained in this chapter is noble, as the Rebbe clarifies, inasmuch as it utilizes the Jew's very nature, thereby obviating the need for a specific matter of contemplation. A relatively general and tangible manner of contemplation will do, as will soon be explained. Indeed, the lower the spiritual level of the individual, the easier it is for him to awaken this hidden love, a paradox that will also be explained presently. So the lower the human being, the sinner, the grave the mistakes that he makes, it will create a much stronger bond once he contemplates on a very simple basic contemplation, and that is to realize all that God has done for me, and that will wake a great deal of gratitude towards God. This matter of contemplation enables a Jew to serve God with fiery, passionate love, leading him to excel in his study of Torah and performance of mitzvot. It also enables him to overcome all obstacles, whether from within or from without, that seek to hinder his service of God. Let a man think along these lines. It is in the nature of a human being that when he feels a strong emanation of love from his fellow, he will respond in kind. And if the manifestation of love showered by an exalted personage upon a very lowly individual, the responsive chord of the lowly person's love will be all the more vibrant. So if you have two people on the same level and one is showing love and caring and providing, the other person inevitably will connect and fall in love with that person. How much more so when you have a king, an exalted king, and a low life person who is low and below, and the king stops everything he does, all the business he's involved with, and he pays attention to that person. The farther the person is from the king, the bigger the great gratitude for the king. In a like manner, but infinitely more so, should this apply when a human being is enveloped by God's boundless love for him. Such is the case with the Jewish people. God showed his boundless love for his people by choosing them from all created beings, from the highest level to the lowest. This love manifested itself by his taking them out of Egypt and bestowing the Torah and its mitzvot upon them alone. And so too does God show this love to every individual Jew at all times, in all places. So God in general took us out and chose the Jewish people from among all the nations, took him from the dumpster, from a place of the lowest that can be, and he chose to lift them up and bond with them, marry them. The same applies to every individual. Every individual receives a very strong connection with God. Such boundless love should truly awaken within a Jew an ardent, reciprocal love for God. Moreover, just as God, because of his love for the Jewish people, overcame all obstacles which stood in the way of creating this world, as will be explained in chapter 49, so too should each Jew strive to overcome all obstacles that hinder his service of God. And the rabbi is going to say that there were many obstacles before God chose the Jewish people. Many obstacles before God created the universe. Despite all the obstacles, God did it. Even though the odds are against a human being. The odds are against the Jews with all the trouble and testing and difficulties they brought up upon God and the Jewish leaders. Same as a human being is, despite all the obstacles to serve God, should overcome all the obstacles and do what's right. Here it is. There is yet another straight way, that is, simple and straightforward, that is equally applicable and suitable to every man. And this matter is very, very close, inasmuch as the technique involved is uncomplicated. So the Rebbe start by saying, this is so simple, you don't need to be smart, you don't need to read Hebrew, you don't need to perform mitzvot, you just need to think about something that's very basic. To arouse and kindle the light of the love that is implanted and concealed in his heart. Every Jew in the heart has a concealed love. To create that, to bring it to the fore, it will take a small match to ignite. This love is already found in the heart of every Jew in a concealed state. Utilizing the approach about to be described makes it very simple for every Jew to reveal and actualize it, that it may shine forth with its intense light like a flaming fire in the consciousness of the heart and mind, ultimately enabling the person to surrender his soul to God together with his body and material possessions, and this being done with all his heart and all his soul and all his might, with the boundless devotion of his soul's essence, from the depth of the heart and in absolute truth, and especially that is a most propitious time for the person to kindle this love in such a manner is at the time of the recital of the Shema and its blessings, as will be explained later, and the particular connection of the Shema and its blessing to the arousal of this love. Later on, the Rabbi is going to talk in particular about the Shema, what's the Shema is all about. And this technique for revealing this love is to take to heart the meaning of the verse as water mirrors the face to the face, so does the heart of man to man. Meaning, this means that as in the case of the likeness and features of the face, which a man presents to the water, the identical face is reflected back to him from the water. Is that simple? If I show a funny face, I get a funny face. If I show a happy face, I get a happy face. Don't blame the water. That image mirrors not only the person's external features, but also the nuances of facial expression that signify joy, sorrow, and so on, thus revealing not only his physical state, but his mental state as well. In other words, it's also the intensity of the human. When I look at the mirror or at the water, not only you see my face, but you can tell what kind of attitude, how do I feel? You can see I'm angry, you can see I'm sad, you can see I'm upset. The face will show and reveal the mental attitude of the human being, and there is no way to hide it. So indeed is also the heart of man, who is loyal in his reflection for another person. King Solomon continued, just like face in the water reflects the same face, so is the heart of a man towards the heart of another person. For this love which he has for the other awakens a loving response for him in the heart of his friend also, so that they come to love each other loyally. Even the love harbored in one's heart arouses a reflected love in another. In other words, you don't have to tell someone how much you love them. All you have to do is feel it in your heart, but a genuine feeling, somebody will feel it. Especially when he sees his friend's love for him freely revealed. The Rabbi is going to go on that applies also to the relation between us and God. I want to share with you some stories. The story I read is told by a very famous Chassid, Rabbi Chaim Noah. Rabbi Chaim Noah was a famous Chassid who lived in Jerusalem in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I think he passed away in the early 70s. I shared a story about the same man and a whole different part. This is a story that directly relates to this, to our discussion. A new rabbi, today's rabbi stories. A new rabbi moved to a town. He was just hired, and he was excited. The community was excited. In that town, there was a man by the name of Getzel. Getzel grew up in a very poor background, poor family, But somehow his luck shined and he became very wealthy, but extremely wealthy. Being that he became extremely wealthy, now he was taking revenge of all the people who showed disrespect all the years. They never gave him an aliyah, they never listened to his opinion, they never invited him to join the board or honor him at a gala. There was nothing. One of the traditions he developed, he became a very evil man who had a bunch of guards, security guards. He hired a good security guards, and they were securing him all the time. He would also bribe the king that ruled the region that no case would be brought against him to court. So he had a tradition that he would go into the market before Shabbat on a Thursday, and whatever he saw and liked, he would grab and take. Pomegranate, get dates, fish, a steak. He would walk into the butcher, he wouldn't say, give me. He would go around, grab whatever he needed. Then he would go to the fish store, grab a few fish, again go to the produce, take all the vegetables, the potatoes, whatever he wanted, and he walked away without paying.
Oh,
No one tried to stop him because the consequences were extremely severe. Soon after the new rabbi came to town, a new merchant from a nearby town moved to town, bought in his warehouse, as merchants. Getzel comes in, he sees a new stand. He likes the plums, he likes the peaches, he likes the cactus, whatever. He starts grabbing. And the man says, pay me. He says, no, money, I should pay you. Be thankful I'm not killing you. So the men start yelling and everybody shushed him. Everybody says to him, watch out. So he didn't know Chochmas. Hat nicht gewusst von Chochmas. He was an honest man. He worked hard and he was supposed to bring food to his children. He went to the rabbi. He told the rabbi what had happened. So the rabbi tells his gabbai, the rabbi had a helper, like a secretary, he had an office manager. He told his gabbai, go summon Getzel to a din Torah, to a court. And the gabbai turned to the rabbi and says, don't do it. The rabbi said, why? He says, because he's a very dangerous person. Not only he will take revenge, he will punish anyone who is trying to ask him for something you don't like. You just stay away. And the rabbi says, what? And the gabbai says, I'm afraid. He can kill me. He can throw a sword on me. And the rabbi says to him, listen, I told you, you must go and say to him, the rabbi sent you, it's not my fault. The rabbi wants to see you right away. He was shaking. He went it was very difficult for him, but he went knock on the door and quickly says, the rabbi called you. He says, tell the rabbi I don't go. Tell the rabbi that he's new in town, he doesn't know me. So he comes back, he told the rabbi, you see, I told you. So the rabbi summoned the leaders of the community, the board who hired him. And he asked him, what's going on here? Jewish law, you respect the rabbi. If the rabbi calls you, you show up. And he said, yeah, but this is a different story because it's a life-threatening situation. He can kill. And he has his band, he has an army of security guards. And the rabbi says, so maybe I don't deserve to be here. Because if I cannot serve God, I'm questioning whether I should stay the rabbi here. So Shabbos came, this was on Thursday, Shabbos came, and Getzel, as he walks in, he tells the rabbi, please remember, I need an aliyah, I want an aliyah. He probably sensed that the rabbi is there to prevent him. He would get an aliyah probably every Shabbos. And the gabbai is about to call him, and the gabbai calls him to the Torah. The rabbi goes to the bima. The rabbi who did not read the Torah, they had a Torah reader. So the rabbi goes to the bima, and everybody got quiet the power of the two titans, And the rabbi went over to him and gave him a flask. How do you say a flask? Gave him a slap does not describe what a flask. A whack. Gave him a whack in his face. And he says to him, get out of here. Leave the shul mechutzav. How do you say mechutzav? Brazen, but it doesn't. Like chutzpah. Yeah. Chutzpah is someone who's very brazen. System, get out. You don't belong in the synagogue, you brazen person. And he walked away. He was embarrassed. But the people warned the rabbi, and immediately they did a board, Shabbos afternoon, and they knew they have to hire a security group, a security at a detail for the rabbi. No, it's not a joke. The rabbi's life is on stake.
This is a real story?
Yeah. This story is in honor of Ali.
And?
So Sunday morning, so they immediately hired a group of guards because they knew the rabbi's life is in danger. Monday morning, a stranger showed up to town and says that he lives in a neighboring village and he has a son who was born 8 days ago and he needs a moyel. He needs a circumciser. The rabbi, those days, the rabbis were also circumciser. It's a package deal. You had to know how to do, just like barbers or doctors, right? Cut hair, cut fingers, it's a package. So why do they have the blue and red in the barber's bowl? They would let blood. They were doctors. The red is letting blood. The blue represent the hair. So they will cut your hair and they'll let blood at the same time. Anyway, so where am I holding? So Monday morning, somebody. Now, so he comes to the rabbi and he says, we need a moil in a nearby town. So some of the members and the guards turn to the rabbi and says, don't go, it's a trap. And the rabbi says, a trap? What trap? It's a mitzvah, I'm going. So the community, the leaders said to the rabbi, before, you don't go without a bunch of guards. At least let them protect you, in case. So the rabbi agreed. So he's sitting in the wagon and the coach, and there was about 4 or 5 guards. And as they are leaving town with this stranger, suddenly the wagon took a left turn, not to the village where he said he came from. So they immediately realized, but it was too late because the wagon was running very quick. And everybody got scared. And they realized that the men sitting in the wagon and the rider were part of these hooligans that are going to hand the rabbi. And as they go down to a valley, suddenly they see Getzel's coach there with a bunch of guards. He wanted to be out to make sure they are outnumbered. As they arrived, they started shivering, the guards. But the rabbi was very calm. The rabbi smiled and he was very quiet. He was relaxed. Everything would be good. God runs the show. And as the wagon came straight to the Getzel's wagon, the guards came in and circled the wagon so no one can run away. And they took out their weapons. And suddenly Getzel came out of his wagon. He goes down and he goes into the coach, the other wagon. And as he looks to the rabbi, he says, hi, Rabbi, how are you? I'm so sorry that I didn't come to the court. And the rabbi says, no worries. I realize you've been challenged, so it was very hard for you, but I'm sure that you will do the right thing. And then Getzel, so the rabbi says, so why am I here? And Getzel says to him, well, it's not about you. I don't hate you. It's about the people around here, all you guards. I'm sure they want to hurt me. And these are the people I want to hurt. So the rabbi says to him, no, I promise you, they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to cause any commotion. Please do not hurt them. And the man says to him, Rabbi, whatever you say, I'll obey. If that's what you want, I will not hurt them. And then Getzel says to the rabbi, I just wanted you to greet you and welcome you to town. And the rabbi says, it's such a beautiful way to welcome me. I thank you very much. And they shook hands, and Getzel says, Rabbi, whatever you need, anytime, I'm at your service. The wagon went back to take them all back. In the synagogue, they were saying sound, worrying about the rabbi. On the road, the guards turned to the rabbi and they asked the rabbi, how did you make the miracle? We all know he did not come there to welcome you to town. We all know he is a heartless person. How did you smelt his heart to make him like a little nobody that is there to serve you? And the rabbi said, King Solomon says that the heart of a person connects with another heart. When I was made aware that this might be a trap, I started thinking about this man and came to a conclusion. The reason he acts in such an evil way, not pain, never causes a lot of damage, a lot of hurting people, is because he has no self-esteem. He came from a broken family. Nobody respected him. Nobody cared about him. So now that he's able to, he is trying to hide his low self-esteem. How is he hiding it? By being wicked. That's how he grabs attention. By being nasty, by being tough to people so they respect him. He feels that the respect he deserves is not coming to him. And it's only because of his past. And I felt sorry for the guy. I said to myself, oh, I wish I can help him. I wish I can be there when he was young. And so I concentrated about how much kindness he deserved, how much help does he need, and how much all that he does is not because of a real choice, but because he had no choice, because nobody cared for him when he was not young. Nobody gave him what he needed. Nobody told him that he's a great guy, even if he does not do trouble, even if he's not being spoken about in town for good or bad. He's a healthy human being regardless. And with those thoughts, I was sure that his heart will melt. And that's exactly what happened. So from that day on, Getzel became the biggest supporter of the rabbi and stopped giving trouble to the town.
Good rabbi. What's wrong?
Why?
Rabbi, when he felt for the man, may not have been conveyed to the other guy. I mean, the other guy must have called him there for wicked reasons. What made him melt when he met the rabbi?
Again.
This guy Getzel had his henchmen bring the rabbi with his things out of his field.
He was about to kill the rabbi. It shows you the power of the heart. When it's a genuine connection, it melts.
Okay, what did the rabbi do that made him melt? He was thinking about it, but he didn't act on it.
No, and the rabbi, I think, is speaking about that the face will reflect my emotions even if I don't reveal them. The fact, so is the heart of a person.
Getzel read his face.
He didn't read, his heart melted. Despite his desire and all the investment and preparation. I want to show, you know what? I'll show you another story.
Yeah. Get back on track. Let's spoil those stories. I like stories. We love stories.
I read the story by the name of the rabbi's name is Norbert Weinberg. In the 50s, early 50s, he was a rabbi of a community in Yonkers, New York. He felt useless. He felt that what he does has no impact on the children. because the kids, after studying with them, you'd study with them every day in the afternoon, give them prizes, raffles, etc. But when they come home, the parents did the exact opposite of what he was teaching them. Right? He told them no kosher, eat kosher, no kosher Shabbat, holidays, nothing. The parents. You cannot compete with the parents. So he gave up. He gave up on the future of Jewish people, unfortunately, and he decided to quit. Somebody told him, before you're quitting, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a young Rebbe and he cares about education. Why don't you go consult him before you make this final decision? He wasn't a Chabad rabbi. So he came to the Rebbe and he showed the Rebbe with exact details of what he feels it's futile. He can invest and put money and extra hours, and then they go home and they see something else. So there's no... The Rebbe told him, you study Talmud, right? And he said, yeah. The Talmud tells us that execution by Jewish law, there are 4 types of execution. All of them, they are extremely, extremely rare. Anybody or some of us studied the Sanhedrin? Extremely rare. And the Gemara has an opinion that if a Sanhedrin, if a court executed a person once in 70 years, they are considered a murderer's court. In other words, despite the fact that gets put to death, let him put to death, it doesn't happen. It's very rare. In fact, Rabbi Akiva, we studied in the Tractate Sanhedrin, said, if I was in the court, there will never be an execution. Remember that, Ali? At the time, I shared with you this dispute with Rabbi Akiva, and I think Harry was asking, so what about all the Jewish law? Rabbi Akiva said, if I was in court, I would have found loopholes to exonerate every single man that came before the court about to be executed. Says the Rebbe, so you can imagine, so someone is about to be executed, it has to be an extremely, extremely evil person on a whole different ball scale. It's impossible to find a human being that's so evil. And imagine there was such a thing, a person, and there was a verdict that he should be executed. And the way to being executed, he says he's thirsty, he wants a glass of water. And they give him a glass of water. Do you think he should say a blessing or not? Yes. What do you think?
Yes.
Of course, yes. He's obligated to say a bracha. Says the Rebbe, just imagine, this man's life is about to end. He deserved to be executed, which the court have already issued a verdict, which is a lot of humps and obstacles. And yet, if he wants to make the drink, he has to thank God for it. How many of those children are going to be great men in Israel? How many of those children will end up raising families to connect to God? And you are underestimating the bracha you make with them on candies. You're underestimating when you talk to them about kissing the mezuzah. You're underestimating the teaching them Yom Kippur you're supposed to fast. Do you realize how powerful each one of those children, regardless of what the parents do or don't do? He says he came out, he was shaken. And it changed his whole attitude. Now these children, each one of them is the next great leader of the Jewish people. And with this attitude, he says, his success not only didn't give up, his success grew exponentially. Because when you put your heart and you look at the children as the future great leader, not as a lost case, because his father is going to make fun of him for eating kosher, or make fun of him making a bracha because the father don't make the bracha. It penetrated those children. Many of them became very observant and started families that the very bright future, all because of his attitude in his heart. And I have another powerful story, but that maybe towards the end. Can we continue reading? Such is, we are page 701. Such is the common nature in the character of every man, even when they are equal in status. In other words, two colleagues that are on the same level, and I show, and in my heart, I love that person, and I care, and I'm looking for ways to help. It will make that person love me back. By the way, it doesn't have to be visible. Face to face in the water, you need to put your face on the waters for the water to reflect. Heart to heart, it can be overseas. I can be in love with somebody who is very far, but I express love towards that person will sense that. It's intangible. And how much more so is this the case if a great and mighty king who rules over many lands displays his great and intense love for a commoner who is despised and lowly among men, a disgraceful creature cast on the dunghill. Imagine someone who is a homeless, didn't take a shower for the last 6 weeks, has all kinds of hair that is sticking with all kinds of stuff, filthy, dirty. The king is ruling over many countries, not the king of the village, the king of the entire country. And that man wants to pay attention to this guy, and he's asking him, how are you doing? Would you like me to give you some food? Can I get you a cup of coffee from Starbucks? The emotion that will fill up the heart of that person is enormous. The king depicted here rules not over one land, but over many. His love for the person is not only harbored in the heart, but is manifest. The manner of love is not ordinary, but great and intense. And the love is shown not to an ordinary person, but a truly despicable character. The Alter Rebbe goes on to state how his love is displayed. So the rabbi says 3 points. This rabbi wants to make sure we understand. You have the king who is extremely, extremely successful and very, very special, ruled many lands. You have a person, he's not a regular person, but he's living in a dunghill. He's living in a dumpster. And the connection, the love the king expresses toward that person is not just wishful thinking. It's in action, doing something out of the kindness of his heart. So these are the 3 components that combine those 3. And yet the king comes down to him from the place of his glory, together with all his retinue. In other words, he's not going by himself, he comes with all the ministers. And raises them and exalts them from his dunghill and brings them into his palace, the royal palace, and within the palace itself, he leads them in the innermost chamber, a place such as no servant, no lord ever enters. He takes them from there, bring them to a palace and say, my private chamber, I want you to spend time here. And there shares with them the closest companionship with natural embraces and kisses and attachments of spirit to spirit with their whole heart and soul. Says the Rebbe, when a mighty king shows such a great affection and companionship to such a lowly person, then how much more so will there be aroused of itself a doubled and redoubled love in the heart of this most common and humble individual for the person of the king, with a true attachment of spirit from heart and soul, from the infinite depths of his heart, even if his heart is like a heart of stone and not easily aroused to tender feelings of love for another. In such a situation, it will surely melt and become like water, and his soul will pour itself out like water with soulful longing for the love of the king. Did you understand what the rabbi is saying? It makes sense. Harry, do you understand? In Hebrew. Oh, me'ashpois yorim evian. I thought you're speaking French. Me'ashpois yorim evian. You're right on target. That's what David HaMelech is speaking about. So again, you have the King of Kings. Huh? You have the King of Kings of rules many countries. You have a man that's not a regular man that goes to work and earn a living. He lives in a dunghill. He's dirty and filthy. And the king not only tells him how much he cares and think about him, but he goes to him with all his entourage. He picks him up, takes him to the palace, brings him to a private room and gives him the key. Says, anytime you can come in there. Now let me embrace you, kiss you, hug you. It will make the person cry from a gratitude towards the person. We will, as the rabbi will discuss, says that's exactly what happened. God did the same to the Jewish people as a nation, and he does it to every individual. Once we think about it just a little bit, we are totally nullified before God. We are in such great depth in the heart of gratitude that we melt. And we know that what will please God and make him happy is study Torah, do the mitzvot, have a joyous day. That's the way we reciprocate God for all that he does from us, which we'll continue studying next week. Thank you very much, everybody. And good night to everyone.